You're watching Every Days and Saturdays, USCC Veteran. Let's go, baby. And here's your host, Brian. And what's going on, friends and family? Thank you guys so much for joining me on another great day, another great interview. And of course, we have an amazing guest waiting back there, but I'm not going to let you know who he is just yet. You'll get to know as I give you a little bit of some hints. They're not going to be hard to guess if you watch the show often. But anyhow, just a little bit of some things. So unfortunately, we are no longer with Reese Across America. No hard feelings there. It was just that this show is a little bit, a little too explicit for their, for their platform, which that's totally okay. Because I here at Every Day Saturday, I really don't want to censor, my guest. I want them to feel free and be able to talk how they want to talk, use language that they want to use and things of that nature. So some of you do know that we do use some colorful language on the show. So, it's obviously not going to be something that's probably appropriate for the radio nation, but hey, it's all good and nothing against Reese Across America. We love them and what they do. And if you guys can go over there and support them. Also, wearing some red, although we drop our episodes on Monday, every Friday, we remember everyone deployed, and that's why we wear red. And that's something that I try to do every Friday if I can. And that's why I made one of my shirts red. So, and also if you guys want a shirt, still got a few of them ready to go. But anyhow, let's go ahead and talk about the next guest. Bada bing, bada boom. One of my favorite events that I've ever gone to, and probably one of my only veteran events I think I've ever gone to, is Herostock and good old Nebraska. And of course, my buddy Jason Steiner. It really wouldn't be a season without this guy. He's been on the show ever since season 1. We had him on season 2, I think, more than once, and we'll probably have him on another time again. Giving us that end of the how did Herostock go talk. But anyways, let's not let it. If I can even talk, I'm gonna need to drink some more coffee and have some more crayons. But let's bring on Jason Steiner. What up, brother?
Well, what's going on, brother, man?
As you can see, I'm just tripping over my words and stuff like that.
It happens, dude. That's all part of doing live and recorded podcast. It's just that's part of it. So,
you know what? I didn't even talk about that part, right? Like, Steiner gets to know it a little bit now. Is he's finally got into that podcast world, and that's another thing I didn't really talk about. We started Herostock Nation, and I've had the opportunity to become a producer of the show, and I get to sit in the background and help them kind of guide them through their show and help them, kind of the odds and ends of the podcast world. That's what, we reach on our brothers and sisters when they know something we don't know, right? Tap in.
Yep, exactly.
They tapped in, and we've been running ever since, huh, bro?
Oh yeah, man. We've done we're in our second season right now, and we've had some really good guests on so far. Our next one that'll be coming up next week, the one that drops next week will be one of our singers, and then the one after that is a really high profile influencer. So we're excited to have him on, and make sure you get over and watch the Herostock Nation podcast on the Herostock page, and because it's we've
you
got
gonna let us know who the guest is?
Nope, we're not.
Tune in. That's right.
He comes around once a year, has a bag full of toys, and slides down your chimney. That's all I got.
Hey, I wonder who.
Yeah, I wonder.
I kind of resemble that sometimes, I think,
Right. I'm getting there. The more this is going on and doing Herostock, the more gray I'm getting. So
yeah, no kidding. Well, hey, brother, it's always a pleasure having you on like usual, man. Let's go ahead and talk all things Herostock, and then we'll talk also about the podcast as well. Sure. And let's dive into it though, bro. You're what on this would be technically your fourth year, really, or what? See,
Technically, it would be our
fourth year,
third year because we started in 2022.
2022. Okay,
September of 2022 was or October, I'm sorry, October of 2022 was our first event under vet stock.
right. Okay, yeah.
23 was the first year under Herostock when we changed the name and included first responders and Gold Star families. So yeah, we're running into our, basically our fourth year. Essentially, it's our third year under the Herostock flag. It's been awesome, man. It's really been enlightening to see the growth of it, to see the people that have got behind it. It's been pretty amazing. So
Yeah, no kidding, bro. And I've seen the growth, and a lot of that is because there's a lot of boots on the ground when it comes to hero stock.
yeah,
And you're really putting yourself out there. I know you go to a lot of different events, and you're not a shy guy. You can talk.
right.
So, I know networking's been huge for you guys, and so let's talk a little bit about all the different events that you guys already experienced, since January. I know you guys been doing a lot of cook-offs and things of that nature.
Yeah. We do some of our own events, but we go into other people's events too and set up the booth and talk. We did a lot with Nebraska Brewing this year through their winter markets. So every other Sunday we were up there setting up a booth and talking to their crowd that came through to see the 35 or 40 vendors that were there and selling some apparel and, handing out some stickers and talking about Hero Stock and what we've got going. We did a lot with them. We just did one with 511 Tactical out of Omaha, the 511 store up there. We did a poker run with the CVMA 16-2, the Lincoln chapter. We've got a bunch of stuff coming up like that. We just did Hallam Fest days. I think we're probably going to do the markets down in a small local town here. They asked us to come down and set up a booth down there, so we'll probably go down there a couple times. And so we've got a lot of stuff where we do a lot of outreach type stuff like that. And then we're talking about, the smoke offs, and we're talking about the golf tournaments, and we're talking about our main event, and, and some of that kind of stuff that we put together as our own events. And we just, the beginning of May, we did our first smoke off of the year. It was a fundraiser. I think we had 9 smokers come in, professional and backyard smokers, set up. They cooked ribs and chicken wings. We sold the food as a fundraiser. We had Shannon Book come in as one of our performers. We had Matthew Jones, and then my daughter, Briella Steiner, she was there. So we had 3 performers out there singing for, they went 4.5, almost 5 hours. So we include a lot of music into what we do because music's so healing. And that's one thing that we do a lot with is the music side of it. And bringing in these veteran and first responder performers. Shannon Book is a 17-year retired Navy corpsman. He came in from Texas to do this. We brought in Matthew Jones out of Beatrice, little town south of Lincoln. He came in to do it for us. And, it's a lot of fun getting to involve them in what we're doing too, because they get to perform, grow their presence of what they're doing and their music that is so healing to everybody else.
Yeah, man. That's one of the big things that I think that, Hero Stock obviously has got a mission, right? But I think underneath that mission comes a lot of little things that come out of that mission, right? And one of it is opportunity.
Right.
You're given some of these veteran musicians an opportunity to have a stage in front of their peers, and then it gives them other opportunities where, they're showcasing them in a way, right?
Right.
And I know that this has offered a lot of opportunity even for your daughter, man. Like, you know what I mean? She's been very, involved in music, but now she has a platform that she can use and stuff like that. So, that's one of the great things I think about Hero Stock is there's a lot of opportunity that some of these musicians wouldn't have. Like, you put some of these musicians on the stage for the very first time of their career, dude. You know what I mean?
Right.
So,
yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Matthew Jones, he played at our smoke off last year downtown Lincoln. And that was the first time he was really in front of a crowd. and he had about 200 people sitting there.
Yep.
And he walks off the stage and he was shaking and he's like, holy crap, man, that was so crazy. And, and
Adrenaline
Joe,
rush, I imagine.
right. And some of these guys, they'll go play in a bar, but they're playing for 2 or 3 people and a bartender.
Sure. Right. Yeah.
It's not, they don't draw the crowds. Nobody knows who they are.
There's no real connection there, right?
Right. So that's part of what, another piece of what we do is we give these veteran and first responder singers a chance to get on stage. We promote them through our social media, promote them very heavily through our social media, even after the event's done.
Right.
We're still promoting them as we're moving on, the Derek Stoners and the Scotty Hastings and the Shannon Books and, all those guys, we're still promoting them, after we're done with the event, when they have something new coming out or when they've got a gig coming up. And we try to use our socials to promote what we're doing, but we also want to promote what our singers are doing, what our nonprofits are doing, our local area nonprofits that we work with a lot. We want to use our socials to be able to try to grow their platforms too,
right?
And share their events and talk about their events, and we just like really pushing the ones that are doing things right and doing it for the right reason.
Yeah, and then once again, there's another leg of the mission, which is you get you're networking, right? And now you opportunity, networking, all those things, it really starts to help. And there's a lot of we're only talking about the band side of this, right? There's also the nonprofit side of it where you guys showcase hundreds of different nonprofits throughout your time. You guys have showcased several different nonprofits, and give them the opportunity to be in front of veterans and stuff like that. And
right,
and then we all get to see nonprofits that we never even heard of or even knew that existed, right? So that's another great thing that you guys offer.
Yeah, and that really stemmed from our very first event. This was meant to just be a night for veterans to hang out. That's all it ever was. And at our first event, we had 12 nonprofits come in, and I knew 3 of them. And I'd already been in the nonprofit world for 3 years, and I'm like, if I don't know them, what does your regular veteran that's just got out that hasn't been immersed in this world, what do they know? They don't know about, the fishing groups that will take you out fishing for free, and take you on a guided fishing trip. They don't know about the hunting groups. They don't know about the motorcycle groups. They don't know about the knitting groups. Like there's so many different things, cars. There's just so many different things out there that people have no idea even exist. And that's been really our main focus, is to have those nonprofits at our events so that people can go, holy crap, I had no idea there was a veteran garage that I could take my car to and change my own oil. And all I have to pay for is supplies. And stuff like that, where if it's put out in front of them, well, now they know. Now they've got a spot that they can go change their own oil instead of spending $150 at a local shop. And, they can keep that money in their pocket, because a lot of veterans are, they can't work. So if they can go down to the shop and spend 20 minutes down there changing their oil, it usually turns into a 2 or 3 hour event, because the guy next to him is also a veteran, and they start talking and BSing and, but if you don't know what's out there, you don't know. So if we can create this hub where we can bring all of these nonprofits into one spot and showcase everybody, give them all a chance to stand out there and sell merch, sell raffle tickets, talk about what they're doing, get names of combat veterans to go do these events, or just veterans in general to go do these events, they're opening up to a world that they don't have access to, because we're putting 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 people in front of them.
Yeah, it's amazing, dude. I mean, I've been out over 20 years and I'm still learning about new nonprofits all the time,
Right.
So it could be whether you're a new veteran or even a veteran you've been out for a while, bro. Like it just blows me away. I'm still hearing new ones. I'm like, whoa, dude, that's really cool. I didn't even know that they had something like that out there, like
right.
like guys jumping out of planes and, reading books or you name it, man. There's a little bit of something for everybody. And if there's not, shoot, go out there and make some, right?
Right.
You know?
And kind of the cool thing for me is, I've expanded it past the state of Nebraska.
Oh
So
yeah.
I've got nonprofits in Florida, in Texas, California, New Jersey, Michigan, that all do different things. Wyoming, an equine therapy out in Wyoming, and if I get a call from somebody in Wyoming that says, "Hey man, we've got a veteran that needs this," well, here, let me hook you up with him. And we actually just had one of our board members. He ended up out in the hospital out in Denver, and his wife was like, "We don't, we got some family out there or some friends, but we don't really have anything out there." And I've already hooked her up with like 3 different people out there, and I'm like, "These are all veterans. They all run nonprofits or they're singers. They are there to help. They will be there if you ask." And that's part of what I love with what we do, or what I do myself, because I do a lot of outreach for that side of it,
Right.
to have those contacts. But it's passed on through Herostock as a group that we have these contacts. We can contact them anytime, and they will take care of a veteran that we send them.
Yeah, see, and that's the thing about Herostock. It really grows into a bigger mission than what you originally kind of start off to do, right?
Right.
And little did you know, right, that you would start meeting all these different people that you never knew that you would end up needing them, like in the situation of Anthony, right?
Right.
And him going down and needing his family needing some help. And little did you know, bro, that all that networking would end up paying off for
Yep.
someone close to you guys,
Right. Right.
and as you guys continue to build and expand yourself, that becomes even a bigger and greater thing.
Yep.
Something that you didn't really think, I think, along the way that it would kind of serve a purpose as, right?
Yeah. I had no idea. Like when I was making these contacts, I'm going to use Gunny up in Michigan for an example, the Primal Outfitters. I'd seen him on Facebook, and I reached out to him and I said, "Hey man, we're doing this event. Love to have you come down and be a part of it." And, I didn't know exactly where he was based out of. So I just sent this through Messenger, and he's like, "Hey, I'd love to talk to you more." Sent me his phone number. So we, had a quick phone call 3 hours later.
Yeah.
Because nothing's quick to me. But we had this quick phone call, and, he was telling me, during that call, he's like, "Man," he goes, "I take veterans and first responders out on my boat, and we go fishing out in Lake Michigan. And it's 100% free for them to go." He's like, "People give me tips, and the tips go back to fuel or repairs on the boat or whatever it is." He goes, "But I got this little center console, like 19-foot, that my grandpa had. And that's what I'm using right now for the nonprofit." And he goes, "It kind of sucks because like anybody that's wheelchair bound, I can't put them in this boat." And I was like, "Oh yeah, man, I totally get what you're saying." And he goes, "Well, I found a 30-foot boat." He goes, "But it's 30 grand." And he goes, "I don't know how to raise money." And I said, "Well, dude, we have this tiered system that we use for our fundraising. It's not perfect by any means, but it gives them guidance." And I said, "I'm going to send you that. I'm going to send you the cover letter." I said, "Take that, revamp it the way you need to. Like use it as a skeleton, revamp it to fit you, and see what you can do with it." Within 30 days, he raised $30,000 for that boat.
Outstanding.
And now he can take wheelchair bound veterans and first responders out on Lake Michigan to fish.
See, here's another damn thing that goes down, bro. Right? You take in, you become pretty much a subject matter expert.
Right.
I feel like you've gone through a lot as a nonprofit, and this isn't your first rodeo in the nonprofit scene. So,
Yep.
You are somewhat of a wizard when it comes to knowing a lot about the nonprofit world, and
Sure.
and I imagine, dude, knowing you, because I've gotten to know you way more than just a conversation.
Right.
But I know that you would be that kind of guy, man. If someone's trying to tap in, you're gonna help them.
Sure.
And there's not a lot of people out there that want to share their knowledge.
Right.
And they don't want to share that part. But I know for you, bro, a big part of your mission is just seeing, I think, your brothers and sisters succeed and
Yeah.
and not become part of the number.
Yep.
And
It's if you're doing right. Like,
yes, right.
if I
You're
can
not just
see
going to help someone that doesn't want the help, right? They're asking, but they don't necessarily want it, because you know how that could be too, right?
Yep.
Someone comes asking you for help, and then you try to help them, and they're like, "No, I don't like that help." Like,
Yeah. And I've had that happen, and it's like, okay, cool, man. Like,
sure,
I don't know everything. This is just a suggestion. This is what has worked for us. We still have a long way to go on the fundraising front. Like, we're trying different things this year to do more fundraising, and I'm like, this is just something that we've done. And if it works for you, great. If not, that's fine too. If you don't want to hustle for it, then it is what it is. Because at the end of the day, that's what it comes down to. It comes down to connections and the amount of hustle you want to put into something. And if you're not willing to hustle, it's not going to succeed.
And speaking of hustle, man, you guys learned a little bit about that last year, right? Like, you guys really tried to do 3 different events.
Yep.
Well, you didn't try. You did 3 different events.
Yep.
But you learned a lot, I imagine, right? Like,
yes,
because that's the first time you guys had a pretty successful year. Your first year as Herostock.
Yep.
Second year, you guys were like, "Hey, let's go ahead and expand it a little bit."
Yeah.
And then I think one event you guys were actually slated for 4, right?
Slated for 4, yeah.
4, and the one that ended up going through. Now, you guys obviously learned a lot from that, right? I mean,
yep.
and learned a lot, because now I see that you guys kind of have shifted your focus a little bit more 2025 into doing events and things like that. Not so much, you guys are doing smaller events, not to the level that you have to have like when it comes to Herostock, bro, the amount of planning that comes into that is a year long or so, right? You guys are working. People have no idea how long it really takes for you guys to put these events together, because you guys are working on them pretty much almost a year in advance, and you got to be right. You got to start looking at bands and things like that, especially some of the higher name ones, because they can be planned out a way, Yep. So, what, from learning from all that, man, I mean, what did you guys take from the lessons learned there that helped you guys kind of build your plan forward for 2025?
Sure. So 24, we went to Lebanon, Tennessee, and we went to Rolla, Missouri, and then we did our one in Ashland. The Tennessee and Missouri ones, they were one-day events. The biggest part is you have to have boots on the ground in the area that's willing to help.
Right.
And you can't just have one person, because like, life gets overwhelming, for everybody. And if that one person can't spend the time to do what needs to be done, me going from Lincoln, Nebraska to Rolla, Missouri is a 6.5-hour drive. I can't do that every week and go down and push flyers and talk to businesses. And, I made 3 trips down there last year. But I can't do that to the level that needs to be done to promote what we're doing there. So that was one of the big things that kind of came out of that, is if you're going to have boots on the ground, you need to have a team of boots and not just one set of boots. And again, like you were saying, if you're doing an event like Herostock, it takes a year to plan. So if you're doing 3 events in 1 year like that, like, you have to have a massive team here to be able to put all of those pieces together to get all 3 of them done. And we didn't have that. We were too young. We were too new. We'd been invited to, I think at that time, 32 different states.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh yeah, let's go out of town. Let's blow it up. And
we want to do everything.
Right. And we realized really quick that, our main event back here suffered because we were focused on the other events out of town too.
Because they were pretty close in time, almost like at least the The Tennessee won to Nebraska. What was it? 2 month, 3 month
6 weeks.
break? 6
6
weeks. Yeah, bro. Gosh damn. I
So
mean,
we had 4 weeks between Rolla and Lebanon, and
yeah,
6 weeks between Lebanon and here. And
that's sporty as shit. That is sporty.
Yeah, and it was, you know, and if the other one would have went through, it would have actually been 4 weeks. What was it? 4 weeks, 2 weeks,
Oh gosh.
2 weeks, and 6 weeks.
Oh man, dude. Yeah, I guess it was a blessing in disguise
It
when
was.
the one fell through, right? I know it was
Yeah,
kind of a bummer because it was a pretty prime location,
right.
but at the end of the day, I think that kind of was a blessing in disguise.
Yep. And looking back, I kind of wish, Tennessee would have fallen through too. But at the end of the day, you know what? We still, even in Raleigh, we still put 300 people there. We still had about 14 nonprofits there. People still got to come out, enjoy the day, enjoy the bands, and meet the nonprofits. We had a couple for-profits out there, but a majority of them were nonprofits. Tennessee, we had about 250 that came out that day. Throughout the day, they enjoyed the bands. They enjoyed the nonprofits that were there. Got to talk to them and learn a little bit more about the nonprofits in their local community. And then last year, the main one back here, when we set the date, it was for a bye weekend. And anybody that knows Husker football, anybody that knows Husker football, you do not plan anything around a Husker football weekend.
And that's facts.
I mean,
that's facts. I seen how crazy these folks are when it comes to Nebraska. And think about it, guys. They don't really got any other sports there. So, I mean, they really pour it into their college team.
Yeah, they'll put 90,000 people in that stadium.
Easy.
And we could be losing, and they got 90,000 people inside the stadium. That's not everybody else's tailgating around.
It's all hanging out at Lincoln, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So, we had it planned for a bye weekend. Didn't really think about the high school stuff when we set it up originally. But high school football was Friday night. Husker volleyball, which now has become a very pinnacle sport to watch, they played Friday night. Husker volleyball played Saturday morning, and Husker football played Saturday afternoon. And, we still had, between the two nights, we had about 1,000 people come through, which wasn't the numbers we were hoping for. But again, at the end of the day, we put 1,000 people in front of those nonprofits and 1,000 people in front of those bands and singers. And they got to experience a Herostock that was more intimate than probably will be this year.
Our buddy Derek Thompson hit the stage for his first time too, right? I mean, that was a good opportunity for him, man.
Yeah, that was the biggest stage he'd ever been on,
right,
to the most people. And Bree had done, her band did Rolla in Nashville because they did those for free. They were like, "Hey, we just want exposure. We'll do them for free." And we're like, who turns down a free band? Okay, let's go.
Right.
Sure. And actually I booked them before Bree was even the lead singer. So I booked that band to come into Herostock, Ashland, and and they did it for free. They were great dudes, but that was probably the biggest crowd they'd been in front of. So it was unfortunate, the timing, just because of them taking the bye weekend and shoving a game in there. But you know what? At the end of the day, we still put 1,000 people in front of those nonprofits. We still had a great event. People still had a lot of fun. There was a lot of really good things that came out of it. I know the Combat Warriors. Actually, my wife had introduced me to these folks, and she was like, "Hey, you got to meet them." So I come over and I was talking to them, and the wife was the caretaker. The husband had dementia, like really starting to go down the Alzheimer's road.
Right.
And he's a Vietnam vet, and we were talking, had a great conversation with them, and they went out and they'd seen the nonprofits, and they happened to stop at the Combat Warriors Nebraska table. And Combat Warriors takes Combat Warriors hunting and fishing. takes them out on trips, pays for it, the whole thing, gives them lodging, everything. Well, they go up and talk to him, and they end up signing him up for a deer hunt where he could go out and do this deer hunt. And she said, well, he can't go by himself. I have to go with him. So they actually made the exception and brought her with him to this hunt. And they sat in a blind, and then he got to relive his younger life of being a hunter and being a fisherman and, talking about the outdoors. And she was so grateful for that trip because he could just kind of relax, and she could kind of relax. Like, it wasn't the normal day to day. It got them away from their regular routine and put them together in this blind and with a guide, and they couldn't talk enough good things about it. So that's one of the stories that came out of last year, was that piece right there. And it's like, that's why we do this. We didn't get paid for it.
Yeah.
We personally got nothing out of it, but we've got the satisfaction of knowing this got to happen for this Vietnam vet, and he got to experience that with his wife.
Provided an opportunity, what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's the beautiful thing about this, bro. And, even for me, that was my, last year was my second event that I had been to. And, you couldn't ever tell, bro, that you guys had all these other events going on. I mean, you guys pulled it off with a hitch. I mean, it really, the way when you walk in, the presentation of the layout, everything, the way it looks, the presentation, just the feel. You guys really know how to set that up, man. You know what I mean?
Right.
And make everybody feel at home, make everybody feel safe, and like the camaraderie is really taking place, and it's such a atmosphere that's set up for that, bro. And you guys just have that way of kind of laying it out to where everybody feels comfortable there,
Right. Right.
And I appreciate that a lot about that, and I think a lot of veterans do, because one of the biggest part about veterans is we alienate ourselves, we turn into hermits. We don't want to leave our homes. We don't really like going out. We don't really like going to places for more than a couple hours.
Yep.
But Herostock is actually one of those places where you go and then you don't want to freaking leave. You know what I mean? You're like,
right.
Gosh, damn, it's already over 8 hours later. Like, like that went by too fast.
Right.
And because I remember the first event, it was only a 1-day event, and we had so much fun the night prior, and then that day we kind of just had a nice time and just chilled and drank, listened to music, and just really got to suck in the atmosphere. And then when that ended, I was there and looked at the wife and I said, I almost feel like crying a little bit, like this is over and we got to go back home, and now I don't get to see all these guys and girls that I just really hit it off with and felt really at home and felt like I could be myself with. And so it kind of left a little bit of a gut wrenching feeling, like, damn, this is over. So when I knew that the second year was going to be a 2-day event, I was like, oh hell yeah, because one day wasn't enough for me, what I mean? And the 2 days was great. It was, I know I'm sure your team is like, you're taxing us, man, but but as a goer, as a goer, I appreciate it. And it's one of those events you don't want to leave. You kind of you're just like, you're getting kicked out. Like the bands, everybody's cleaning up, man. You got to go. We're all just sitting there like, what? We got to leave.
Right. You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here.
Yeah. So, it's always been a great event. And hey, I honestly, if the first one didn't really tickle my timber, I certainly wouldn't go do it again. Right. Because I hate traveling and I hate being on a plane. You know what I mean? And I always get the red dot going through the security guard on my pee-pee or my ass. And then I got to sit there and get pulled off to the side and get groped, and it happens both ways. It's going and coming, and it happened both trips. So I imagine if I go again, it's going to happen again.
Right, right. You got something
I'm
going
paying
on.
for that bullshit where I get to skip that part, man. I'm paying for the what are
Right.
the
The TSA
pre-screening
pre-check.
crap that they make you do now?
Yeah.
They'll probably still send me through something, man.
Right, right.
But no, if like I said, if for me to go and want to go, that's a big thing. And I don't think a lot of people understand that, right? Like my wife does,
Sure.
but if you don't know me, you don't really understand that that's a big thing for me to want to get in the plane, go to Nebraska, and go hang out with a whole bunch of people I don't really know,
Right.
So,
Right.
like I said, it basically is like a when I go there, I feel right at home. I feel, and this last time we had already known a majority of people from the first one. It was just like, hey, mother, like there you are, and we're getting to see each other again,
Right, right. And then you get to meet
and
a lot more people.
right. And then this second round, there was a whole other list of folks that I didn't really get to talk to. And then even from that first event, I had missed the opportunity to go around and talk to a lot of people because I was kind of like hung over and just chilling, like that. I
Right.
would basically rooted myself and didn't take the opportunity to go meet a lot of folks. But the second time, I was like, I'm gonna meet more people,
Right. Right.
This time I'm gonna be drunk and walking around talking to everybody, So me and Tom, we managed to do that well.
Yeah.
And
Tom a little better than others, but yeah.
yeah. What
But
Tom
even like,
can remember of the first night event.
right. But even like the singers, we had almost a whole new lot of singers that came in.
Yeah.
This second year, you got to meet Die Tired, you got to meet the American Hitmen, and they just mingled with everybody. Like they hung out just like everybody else hung out. The Schaefer Muellers, the Derek Thompsons, everybody was just kind of hanging out. There was little jam sessions that would start here and there where 2 or 3 guys would have their guitar and they just start jamming and playing and singing a little bit here and there. And
yeah,
so that was pretty cool for me to see that side of it where we had all of our bands and singers that we had last year. Nobody were ones that went and locked themselves in a trailer. Like they all came out and milled, whether you were a headliner or an opener.
oh,
You were out
facts,
milling
man.
with everybody else. And all of our bands that we brought in throughout all these years, they've all been amazing. They all get out and they hang with the crowd and talk to people and sign autographs and everything like that. So I'm curious to see this year. We did grab 2 bigger headliners this year, so I'm curious to see this year how that works. If they're going to do the same thing and get out and just mill around with the crowd and hang out, or if they're going to want to be back in their
yet. We're going to talk about that next. Don't mention them yet.
Right. But yeah, I mean, last year was an amazing time. There was a ton of work that went into it all the way across the board. I've got a really good board now. People really want to be there. They really want to work. They really want to do the thing. And they understand it and they want to see it grow. So that's pretty cool to me to see that happening too. So
yeah. The other thing that was kind of cool from the first event that I went to the second one is the returning musicians that returned to see the growth from them from the year prior.
Right.
And to see how much they grew and like picked up new songs and things like that. It wasn't like we just got exactly the same piece from the first, year.
Right.
We got a different them. Even Scotty Hastings went from he was an unsigned artist at the time, the first event.
Yep.
And in between that and the next one, he gets signed by Black River Entertainment.
Yep.
And now you're dealing with a different Scotty. You're dealing with a team of Scotty now, right?
Right.
And so seeing that whole thing and his growth as well, is just amazing, and once again, it comes down to these kind of opportunities that they are getting themselves to feel more comfortable in front of crowds and things like that. But, it is awesome to watch that growth from the musicians as well. Like you can tell that they've gotten better at their, at their stuff from that previous year.
Yep. Yeah. And Scotty came in with a full band the second year.
Yeah.
First year he came in as a solo musician and
right.
And he brought the whole band and the manager and everybody along down to see it and hang out. And and he held a pretty good crowd to the end of the show. And there was a lot of people that was talking about him. So it was cool to watch, like you said, his transformation from, a barroom singer. Now he's an on-stage performer, singer, songwriter, because it's a whole different world when you go from playing in the bars to being on stage.
Yeah.
And he's transitioned really well, and he puts on a great show, and it's
awesome to see, bro. And at the end of the day, that's, I guess, what we hope for, right? Is each of our brothers and sisters to get so big that it's hard to get them to come to your show now.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yep.
So, I mean, it's kind of crazy how that whole evolution ends up working. But all right, man, we're going to go ahead and take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk more about what everybody can expect for 2025 and the events you got going on the 22nd, 23rd, or is it 23rd and 24th?
22nd, 23rd.
Yeah, 22nd, 23rd. And we'll talk more about Herostock Nation podcast as well. And then we'll go ahead and wrap it up. But we'll be right back after this quick message.
Join us for Herostock, a special event dedicated to honoring our veterans and first responders. Experience a day filled with incredible live music performed by those who served and protected our communities. Connect with our nonprofits dedicated to helping our heroes thrive. Discover the services available to support our veterans and first responders in their journey. Bring the whole family. Kids will love the fun activities designed just for them. Reconnect with your community and celebrate the courage and sacrifice of our heroes at Herostock. Join us for a day of music, support, and togetherness. Check us out today on www.herostock.org.
Yeah.
And we're back.
We're back.
Once again, if you guys haven't seen that commercial before, sure you've seen it a couple times, maybe.
Right.
But all right, brother, let's go ahead and get on to the main event, man, and kind of talk about what people can expect this year. And let's talk about some of the bands that are going to be there, some of the nonprofits, maybe even some of your sponsors that you got. Whatever you want to throw out there, let's talk about it, and then we'll talk about Herostock Nation podcast.
Yeah. So I'm going to drop it back just a little bit from there. Actually, by the time this drops, we'll be through Memorial Day weekend. But we're doing an event with John Berry.
Actually, this drops on Memorial Day.
Yeah, it does. It drops on Memorial Day. So we'll be one day after the event that we're doing with the Berry Law Firm.
Sorry, it won't be. Oh yeah, it will. My gosh, yeah. All right.
But yeah, we did an event with them earlier this year. I brought in the bands. They named the Herostock stage, and we did their grand opening in their new building. And then we'll do one this Sunday, or this past Sunday, I guess. That we're bringing in. They're bringing in Dave Bray USA. I've got South of Center and the 145 band and the Heroes Encore. We'll actually be performing at that one. Free concert, Memorial Day weekend concert. Free food, and it's just to honor our heroes. I'm very awesome. Paying for all of it. They're an amazing sponsor. They've been awesome. They decided that I needed to be the spokesman for them, so they're putting me in the booth, and I'm doing hype videos for a bunch of stuff. So Herostock page has a bunch of that on it. But no, they've been amazing. And then we've got a golf tournament. May 31st, our first golf tournament that we'll do this year. We've got a golf tournament July 19th out in Kearney, Nebraska with Buffalo Ridge Golf Course. My buddy Bill Seibert owns that. And then we'll go to, we've got the Smoke Off in Omaha, August 9th, up at Nebraska Brewing Company. And then our main event that we've been talking about, August 22nd and 23rd, Ashland, Nebraska, Country Drive Golf Course. It's an amazing event venue. The people that own it are just amazing people. They're super helpful. They've actually opened up camping this year. So if you're local or not local and you want to bring your camper in, There's 300 camping spots that you can set up in.
We're going legit Woodstock, folks.
Yeah. You can literally get drunk, crawl to your camper, and crawl back out the next day and do it again. So that's a really cool part that's happening this year. Is we will have on-site camping for people, so they don't have to leave. But we decided this year we're going to shorten it a little bit. Last year Friday night was 6 hours, Saturday night was 9 hours, and 9 hours was rough.
Yeah, I'm sure. That's how you said for your team. For us, we're like, hey, why are we ending now? Yeah,
right. Yeah, exactly. So, but we're going to go from 4:00 gates open. Music will start at 5, go to 11-ish, maybe a little longer, depending on the headliners want to continue on. If the crowd's still into it. So
that encore.
Yeah. Call them back out. So yeah, we'll do that. We've got about 7 hours a day instead of the 6 and 9. But it's we tried to step up our game a little bit this year. We reached out to a couple people, found out that they were really expensive. So
you're like, headliners, holy sheesh, man, that's a price tag.
yeah, and and I get it. Like they have a lot of expense to come in and do this stuff.
Sure.
So they still have to pay their people and that kind of thing. So I totally understand. But we got some really good bands this year, man. The rock night will be Friday night. Gates open at 4, goes to 11. And we haven't put them in order yet, but Shannon Book will be coming up with a full band this year. We will have Die Tired coming in from Pennsylvania this year again. That'll be their return trip from last year. Those guys are amazing. I love their music, but beyond that, they're just amazing people.
They have good stage presence too. Yeah,
great stage presence.
Right.
And they're probably one of the best promoted bands I've ever seen. Like they spend so much time on their social media promotions, but just great dudes. We're looking forward to having them come in. We had a headliner that we thought was going to be able to come in, and they were huge, and they were going to do it for a very cut price. And they ended up having to back out. They got a bigger tour that they got put on, and I understand, you've got to grow your brand too, and you can't I think they're going to be overseas when our event's going on. So it's like, nope, I totally get it. So we shifted fire a little bit, but we found a band called Gallivant, and they're a local band out of Omaha. These guys, they put on a hell of a show. They will actually trade instruments in the middle of the show and continue playing the song that they're playing. The bassist is playing guitar, the lead guitar is playing rhythm, the rhythms, it's just, so it's pretty cool watching them. They do a really good job. Their stage presence is also very, very good. They won the Battle of the Bands up at the Whiskey Roadhouse,
cool.
A local bar up in Omaha. And they're really good dudes. I've talked to 2 of them now. I made fun of the bass player, but other than that, we had a pretty good conversation. But then we've got our buddies, and they wanted to play last year, and they were actually slotted for the Harlan County event in Nebraska. And when that one fell through, I said, "Hey man, come in and play our rock night here." And he was like, "I can't. My sister has a wedding that day." So we ended up not being able to have him come in last year, but Lockjaw out of Texas is coming in. And Lockjaw is, if I had to describe them, I would say they're kind of a Bad Wolves sound. They've got 2 veterans in their band. The lead singer's wife's a veteran. Super good dude. Like Jeff.
Does it open up a mosh pit type guys, or
it very well could open a mosh pit. So yeah, we're curious to see how that's going to go. Uh,
I'll be the starter of it all.
right. But super good dude. I spent a lot of time on the phone with Jeff, and he was like, man, I'll help with this. I'll do this. If you guys need help with ticketing, I'll help set all that stuff up for you. Super good dude, and they're coming in for way cheaper than they should. And he cut us a hell of a deal to come in for this. He's like, dude, I just want to play it. He goes, I want to be a part of this.
Love it.
So I thought that was really cool. They're bringing their tour bus up, and they're going to hang out with us for a couple days. And actually, Die Tired has a show the very next night, so they're on the 23rd. They're going to be playing up in Council Bluffs, Iowa. So they booked another show while they were out here. So I was like, cool, man, that's awesome. But then, so we'll close that night down. Saturday night we'll kick off. Gates open at 4. Music starts at 5. We've got Kimberly Meyer coming back again this year. So she played last year. She's a local veteran that she is the commander of the band in South Dakota for the National Guard.
Warrant officer.
A warrant officer, yes. She will be bringing in her band this year.
Oh, she's nice.
Yeah, then
last year's was just her and her
guitarist.
Yeah.
Yep. So she ended up getting a full band. So she's bringing the full band. She's really been pushing a lot of music out. She's really trying to grow her brand. She signed with One Republic, which is an indie label. So that was really cool that she got signed with them and that kind of thing. And then who else do we have? You asked me this question and I knew it. And we've got Trainer Band. Trainer Band's going to be coming in. We're super excited to have them come in. This will be the first year they've got to play Herostock. I've booked them for a couple other gigs. But they're a high energy band. They were voted one of the top 25 bar bands in the nation by Jack Daniels.
Holy shit.
Yeah. So they're
honors.
Yeah. They're a lot of fun. And everywhere they go, they sell out Busch Light. They actually just did a show up in Omaha, and the bar was like, yeah, we were almost completely dry. So they bring a pretty good crowd with them. They're fun to watch. They're great dudes. Tony's the lead singer of that band. He does have a veteran in his band, but he doesn't like to have it mentioned because he's like, he doesn't want people to feel like the band's getting something special because he's a veteran. So we don't talk about that, but he's also a good dude, a Marine. Got to chat with him for a while. Super nice guy. And then we've got South of Center. South of Center is going to be back again for the second year. They're a local band I think they're out of Ashland area. The lead singer, he was actually a NHL goalie.
Oh shit.
He played over in Europe and all kinds of stuff, but they've got I think 2 veterans and one veteran and 2 that's still serving that's in their band. So that's kind of cool to be able to incorporate them too, especially being a local band like that. And then, crazy enough, and this was a wild grab. I literally just threw it against the wall and see what happens. But we actually signed LV Shane. And LV Shane in 21 put out a song called My Boy. And it's about a dad that adopts a kid. And
heart trigger.
Yeah. And it's basically it's, he doesn't have my eyes, he doesn't have my smile, but he's my boy. I haven't missed a game. I haven't, I've done all this but he's my boy, and
yeah.
He's got some amazing music. The dude's like, I had a great conversation with him and a couple good conversations with him, and he's just, salt of the earth, just a down to earth guy, a great guy. So we're super excited to have him come in this year. And, he's like, man, all I need is a place to crash and just hang out. And a little bit of food here and there, and that's it. And the dude's from Kentucky. And
Yeah, you be
he's
killing me
got,
with his accent, man. I heard you.
oh, you're going to be dying, dude, because his accent is so
Twang.
thick.
He's a twangy dude, huh?
But
Yeah.
his music isn't twangy. That's
Nah,
the funny
nah.
thing. Like, you talk to him, and he is twangy as all twang. But man, his music is smooth. It's, uh, he sings a couple songs. One of my favorite ones is Country Roads, and it talks basically. This song is me growing up. Growing up on the bus and learning how to fight and learning how to kiss and having a girlfriend and the whole 9 yards. And so when we signed him, I happened to reach out through Instagram, and I said, because we'd seen him open for Brantley Gilbert up at Stir Cove, and I reached out to him and I said, "Hey man, that was a great set. Love your music." And I do that quite often with a lot of bands, just props.
Filling it out, yeah.
Hey man, you did a great job. You
Right.
killed it. And he actually answered me back, and I was like, "Holy crap, that's cool." Well, then when we were starting to book bands, I was like, wonder what he would cost. So I reached out to him and I said, "Hey man, this is what we're doing. Would you be interested in something like this?" And I gave him my phone number. And the next night my phone rings and it says LV Shane on the screen. And me and the wife were having a conversation. I'm like, "Hold that thought. I need to take this phone call." And I answer it, and "Hey man, how you doing?" I'm like, "Oh my, this is awesome." But we had a great conversation, and we were going to actually have him come in as the warm up band for somebody that we were trying to sign, and the guy ended up falling through. And so I called him back and said, "Hey man, for your full band, what's it going to cost? We want you to be the headliner." And he shot me a number, and I said, "You're signed. I'm not even talking to the board about this. Like, it's well within the budget. You are signed. I will send the contract."
Executive decision made.
Yes, exactly. And it was substantially less than what we were looking at for a headliner. And he was doing it. He's like, it sounds like an amazing event, and what you guys are doing is incredible. So I want to be a part of it. So he's coming in. But right now we've probably got 40 vendors signed up. I think Bravo Zulu is going to parachute in again this year with the American flag and the Gold Star family flag. We got a lot of stuff like that. We're going to have more events for the kids to, have them have something more to be involved with. We've been working on that quite a bit, trying to make sure it's more of a family friendly instead of just mom and dad. Bring your kids out, bring the whole family out, and everybody heal together. So we got a lot of that going on this year again. Like I said, we got the camping this year. And then one of the things that we just added we've been talking about it for about 3 months, but we just voted on it. We're going to do the Herostock Community Give Back program. And with this program, we've decided to take a portion of the gate fees. So this year, if you're not a veteran, first responder, or Gold Star family, it's $20 to get in per night. But we're taking a portion of those fees, and the Ashland Fire Department, their volunteer fire department, they need new headsets for their trucks. And it's about $5,000 to $9,000 a truck to put new headsets in. So we're donating a portion of our gate fees back to them to help purchase gear that they need for their volunteer fire department. And then we've decided any nonprofit that's there that does their events within the state of Nebraska, their name will go into a bucket. If they have to participate both nights, actually put up a booth and participate both nights, but their name will go into a bucket. And right before LV goes on Saturday night, we will do our drawing for a nonprofit. Whatever nonprofit we pull out, they will get a portion of those proceeds as well from the gate fees. And that will go back to their nonprofit to try to help them grow, because I was talking to a couple different nonprofits, and I said, what would $20,000 do for your nonprofit? And they're like, that's our whole year's budget. You know, that's what
That-
we spend 20 grand a year, a whole year to do everything that we do.
Gosh, damn.
Some of them, it's like 3 years is their budget. You know, so it's like if we can get people to come out and participate in what we're doing, that money doesn't go all to us. We're actually distributing it back out to help the community grow. So we're excited about that piece, and we
That's
just
really
kind of
cool.
announced it, and so yeah, we'll see how it goes this year. But we've got a great lineup. We've got a lot of great vendors coming out. We've got some amazing sponsors, of course, Barry Law, Langfeld Overhead Doors. The Dagan Page Foundation just came on again this year. Langfeld, this is the third year they've sponsored. The third year Barry's sponsored. You know, we've got some other stuff in the works right now. Sandhills Printing, Sandhills Global, they're going to be a sponsor this year. Ageless Men's. So we've got a lot of sponsors that are starting to roll in now, and people are talking about it. And we're still short for the event, so we need more sponsors, but you know, we can never have enough sponsors, I don't think. So
No, that's facts. That's
but
facts.
but yeah, man, it's gearing up to look like a pretty amazing event this year.
Talk about your sponsor packages out there, you know, kind of you know, what it looks like if anybody is watching and they're thinking about maybe, you know, becoming a sponsor.
Sure.
Talk about your tier or whatever, however you work it, bro. Let's kind of
so we have it's a local sponsorship package, and you don't have to be local to be part of that sponsorship package, but we run off of a tiered system. So it starts at $250,000.
Woo!
We start at $250,000.
For just a quarter mil, you can come on in.
Starts at $250. And each tier, as you go up, you get more stuff. So if somebody's interested in it, I can send it out. But you know, $250 to $14.99 is the first tier. The second tier is $14.99 or $1,500. The third tier is $2,000, $3,000, $5,000, and then we go into a corporate sponsorship. And you know, corporations coming in to sponsor and stuff. 10,000, 15,000, 20, 25, and 50,000. And we're working on we're trying to work on the corporate side of it to try to get some bigger sponsors to come in and be a part of what we're doing. But yeah, it's anybody that wants to know about it, please reach out to me, jason.herostock@gmail.com, and I will send you the information. I can send you the cover letter of kind of what we've done in the past. You know, to this point, we've serviced around 3,000 veteran first responder Gold Star families and supporters through all of our events. We've done over 140 nonprofits at our events, and some of those are repeats, but we've hosted 140 nonprofits total, or 140 vendors. We've been invited to 37 different states. We've got some great testimonials on our website. These are just kind of some pictures that, you know, we've had taken throughout the years of the events, and you know, some of the stuff that we do. We work with the Lincoln Stars a lot. We've got an event coming up with them June or July 26th. So we'll actually be hosting a nonprofit night there and bringing in a handful of bands to set that up. But yeah, it's been this year's been cool. We've changed a few things. We revamped a few things. We've got a couple new board members on, and people are hungry, and they really want to see it grow. So it's of course been a lot of work, but it's also been a lot of fun. So
yeah, dude. Yeah, no kidding. Well, yeah, and you know, I'm a big fan of it, and that's, you know, why I always talk about Herostock. You guys will hear me coach it up, whether I go or don't go. I'll always be a big fan and a supporter of it. And if I can't go, it's literally because I can't.
right.
And this year's going to be a little tricky, but I think we might try to make it work because it is our 10-year anniversary on the August 21st. So we're flying out to Maine, And we're hoping that maybe on our way back from Maine, we stop in Nebraska and hit the events up, because it'd be really rough for me to miss it, because I know the way everybody is. There'll be pictures out there, and look what I did.
We'll FaceTime you and
or something, and I'm just gonna be like, motherfucking dudes, don't you rub it in me? Don't you rub it? I'm gonna block my number, dude.
right. Yeah, we'll be sending videos, FaceTime, all that kind of stuff.
Well, let's go ahead and talk. We're gonna switch it up just a little bit from the events. Now we're gonna talk about the Herostock Nation podcast. I'll go ahead and show you guys the intro to that, and then we'll talk a little bit about that real quick.
Raise the Roof Productions.
It's another podcast show. It's Herostock Nation, baby.
Your host of Herostock Nation, Jason Steiner.
What's up, Herostock Nation? Oh, wait.
There it is. That's his cue. The intro has changed. I guess I didn't update it on this one, but just a little bit on the intro. But anyways, man, let's talk about Herostock Nation. Talk about how that came about and how it's going, and we'll talk a little bit about your co-host. And we know that he can use a lot of prayer and a lot of support right now. So, but go ahead and talk about Herostock Nation, man.
Yeah. So the first year that I did Herostock, I was on, I think I made 24 different podcasts, and I did like 40 some episodes. Like, it was something stupid in like 7 months.
I thought it was more like 60 or something. I don't know. Was that the second year or something? But I don't know what. I know you were hitting some numbers up there, bro, because we were like, damn, what's your number now?
Right. Yeah, it was insane. Like, I did a lot of podcasts that first year. Anybody that would have me on, I hit up any podcast I could find and got on the podcast and talked. And so my thought was, well, let's start a Herostock podcast, and we can talk about our nonprofits. We can talk about our singer, talk to our singers, bringing our singers on and letting them talk and why they want to be a part of Herostock and that kind of thing. And so we were going to start it in 24, and there was going to be 2 co-hosts and me. And we just, it never seemed like it was the right time. Everybody was busy. We had the 3 event, the 4 events at that point when we were first talking about it. And nothing was getting done right. So it was like, you know what? It's just not the right time. We're going to hold off on this. And so we postponed it. I reached out to you in October, November, and I said, hey, man, I think it's time. I think it's time we do this. And you were like, hey, I want to be a producer. Like, I want to start down that road. So, you walked me through what to buy and kind of how we were going to run it. And we came out the gates hard. We dropped our first episode January 9th. Yes, that's right. Because it was
I know that date. It's my anniversary date, because I started on January 9th, 2023. So yeah.
Yep. So yeah, we dropped our first one January 9th at 25 this year. We've hosted some amazing guests on there. Service dogs. We've talked to a good handful of singers. We just had a podcast group on the Dad's Man Cave podcast. We've had some amazing people on there, and I didn't realize what goes into a podcast. Like, you think it's just easy, because coming onto somebody's podcast, you just pop on, you do your thing, they talk to you, okay, we're out, bye, and you're done, right?
Yeah.
Scheduling people and making sure everybody can make it, and making sure everything's good, and you have their bios, and you have an understanding of who they are before they come on. And it's like, holy crap, this is a lot of work.
A little homework involved in it.
Yeah. Like, you could spend a whole day just doing the homework on somebody before you even have them on.
You find out real quick that it's not so much of a hobby; it's more of a job.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And so me and Anthony, we jumped on it. He's done other podcasts, so he jumped on with me, and he's like, "Hey, man, I'll be your co-host." And so we've been doing that, and he's pretty quiet. He kind of lets me run the show. And then, if I run out of something, or if he runs into something that he wants to ask, he'll do the, well,
So,
so yeah, that's it. So, he probably won't be on the next 4 or 5, maybe 6 episodes. They were moving to Colorado. They got out to North Platte, which is about 3 hours away from home. Him and his neighbor were driving the U-Haul. Thankfully, his neighbor was driving at the time. Thought he was having a heart attack. And so they went to the hospital, and they figured out, well, they kept saying that it was an anxiety attack. And which now they've actually ruled that it was an anxiety attack that he was having at first, but it was because of his blood pressure being high. Mm-hmm. And they ended up they couldn't get a pulse in his foot. So they ended up doing a CT scan and found out that he had a dissection in his aorta in his groin. So they life flighted him to Denver. And that night, or that next morning, I guess, they did a surgery on him to repair it. And it's right now, it's kind of a 2-step forward, 1 step back, process. And I talking to his wife yesterday, and I said, here's the deal. As long as it's 2 steps forward and 1 step back, and not 1 step forward and 2 back, you're still making progress. So, but they're saying he'll probably be in ICU for 4 to 6 weeks total. And they'll move him out of there once they get his blood pressure under control. They'll move him out of there into a rehab, and he'll probably be in that for at least a couple weeks before he'll be able to go home. So he's going to be down and out for a little bit here. And so we're going to have a couple guest hosts jump on with us. And, I'm please everybody throw up a prayer for Anthony and just him and the family. And I know Aaron had just posted something yesterday for a Venmo account to help financially, because she's not being able to work a whole lot right now, being up at the hospital with him.
And he can't work.
Yeah, he can't work. And he was hoping to get out to Colorado and find a new job.
Right.
And he'd been off work for about a week and a half before they left. So, he quit his job. So they're just hoping that, everything goes good. They basically, the nurse came in and said, here's the deal. Like, we don't see this in people that live. This is something that we do in an autopsy. This is something that we see there. So, for everything that happened and the seriousness of it, he was lucky he was where he was, because once you get past North Platte, there's really nothing. Like Western Nebraska, there's not a whole lot when you get out in Western Nebraska. So he's lucky that they were in North Platte when it happened, that he could get to the hospital there, that he got flown to Denver, life flighted out to Denver and that kind of thing. So, but he's a fun part of the show. If you've never seen it, check it out. He's a great dude. He served in the Army, National Guard. He did a couple deployments. But yeah,
really become his purpose, man. He's, what did he say to the doctor?
Yeah, the Herostock has definitely become his purpose. And the doctor came in and said, well, what are you going to do? What's your goal when you get out of here? And the doctor said, most of the time I'm going to be a better dad. I'm going to be a better father. I'm going to be a better husband, blah, blah, blah. And he goes, I need to get better by August 9th so I can go back and help with the smoke off. And then I've definitely got to be better by the 22nd and 23rd so I can go hang at the main event. And his wife was like, what about us? And the doctor's like, no, that's actually great. It gives him like a pinpoint something to work towards. And, instead of just that broad, I'm going to be a better this, it gives him something pinpoint to work towards. So it was a good answer, but yeah, his wife was like, hello.
Yeah, we definitely need you guys out there. Send your positive vibes. If you're a praying type, pray for him. He's definitely got a long recovery ahead of himself. He's got young ones at home, and they're literally trying to move, from not a city to city, from a state to a state. So no easy task there. And yeah, man, please send your prayers out for him. But one thing about Hero Stock Nation podcast is that its ability to kind of bring the event to life, right? For some of the folks that have not got to attend it, a lot of your guests have been to Hero Stock, been a part of it, to some degree, right? So they're getting to tell their aspect of how it touched them, what they got from it, and those kind of things like that. So that's one thing about the podcast that I think is a great thing is, like I said, it really paints a picture for a lot of folks that maybe are thinking about it, haven't got a chance to go or something. You keep hearing about it enough, you're really going to make someone want to go, right? That's how we got Betsy going. We just talked about the first event enough, and she was just like, "Stop, I'm going." And now she's counting down, man. So
now she's
already counting down for the second one. So it's just awesome, that you're starting to create a community of folks that really want to continue to be a part of it, not just a 1 year and done in with it. They want to continuously find a way back. No matter where they're coming from. Betsy's from Texas, I'm from California, we got people from Colorado, there's
I'm from Arkansas.
You talk probably Carolina, anywhere from the Carolinas to the Californias. And in between, I mean, everybody's kind of heading. And the nice thing about Nebraska, it's very centrally located. If you look at the map, man, you almost can't pick a more of a middle of the state kind of state other than Nebraska. So, that's the kind of the nice thing about where it's at as well is, almost everybody can kind of get there and have somewhat of around the same kind of travel time. It's not like I'm going from California all the way to the East Coast. That's a hell of a flight.
Right.
But that's what I'm saying. You guys are really building a great community. This Hero Stock Nation podcast is like I said, it's showcasing that community and also giving you a look of what others experience. And you're not just hearing it from me time and time again, you're hearing it from lots of others as well.
Right.
And so that's kind of the cool thing about the podcast as well. And like I said, it's really just painting a picture for those that don't get a chance to go, because a lot of us can talk about the event. It's another thing to actually go experience it and feel it for yourself, right? Like, and walk away from that experience. So, but we're going to all preach it and talk it so we can see you guys out there, and we do hope that Hero Stock has the ability to find its way into other states and stuff, because it's a great thing. It is a great thing. It's a great thing for the community, for the Nebraska community. It's a great thing for the veteran community and first responders and the family members. And then also you're bridging the gap with the community and that community, the veteran and the first responders, because sometimes there's a big division between the two worlds.
Right.
So it's a great way to showcase and bring in, the community to come hang out with your local heroes. And let's break some bread and have some fun and listen to some great music.
Sure.
But I can't say enough how happy I am to be a part of it. I've kind of deemed Hero Stock as one of my honorary sponsors of Every Day's a Saturday, and I will always continue to showcase Hero Stock as once again, I think it's an event that every veteran or first responder, family members of the such need to experience it for yourself.
Right.
But is there anything else, Mr. Steiner, that you want to say before we head out of here, man? You're a busy dude. I'm sure we can go on and on and on. And I mean, this motherfucker just tries to take on the world sometimes. And I have to sit him back like, bro, chill, dog.
Sit down.
Yeah, I got to level set my boy sometimes, because this little bitch is trying to just, stress himself out to the grave.
Right. No, man, I want to see every face out there. And, I want to see the connections made with the nonprofits, with veteran to veteran, veteran to first responder to first responder.
Right.
I want to see it grow, and I want to see the community grow to where there's not a nonprofit out there that somebody in their community doesn't know about.
Right.
Whether it's equine therapy, motorcycles, knitting, reading books, gaming, there's nonprofits for all that, or groups for all that. They may not necessarily be nonprofits, but there's groups that you can join that do online gaming.
Yeah.
It's a bunch of veterans that do online gaming, growing vegetables or other things growing. There's groups, Sick Call for Doc or Sick
Yep.
Call with Doc. And the podcast world, we try to get the podcasters to come out because there's a plethora of people and groups that they can talk to, and, one-on-one, face-to-face, and be like, I want you on my podcast. So it's just, we want to see the community grow, continue to grow, push out these amazing nonprofits that are doing the right things for the right reasons. And hopefully at some point we can take it outside the state of Nebraska again. There's actually talks for 26 already about possibly going back to Missouri, different location down there. Possibility of going to Connecticut. There's so many possibilities. Texas has like 4 or 5 or 6 spots. It's like, man, you got to come here. And California, we've got so many different opportunities and options to be able to look at. We just have to try to figure out financially what's the best for the nonprofit and where we can make the biggest impact. So
yeah, and you guys are also at that pinnacle point too. You got to start, every decision you make is going to contribute to the growth or the stop of the growth, right?
Right.
So
Yep.
it gets kind of tricky when you start to grow,
Right.
and because at that point in time your head starts to spin and you want to start doing all these extra things, but does that attribute to the actual mission and keep you guys on the trajectory of going up, right?
Right. Exactly. Yep.
But yeah, man, once again, man, I'm always it's always a pleasure to have you on. I do foresee that we will be having you on probably September timeframe, because we'll be talking about how Herostock 2025 was, and we'll be talking about what the hell they expect for 2026, because everybody's going to want to know right away.
Right. Well, I think we'll have a date set before the actual events on for this year. We'll have a date set for 26. So
outstanding.
We'll be able to go right into that and start planning right away and getting stuff done. So
yeah, and you guys are definitely maturing, right, as a committee, right? And you guys, you're learning from your past, and you're really starting to learn how to move forward, so
yep.
Great, exciting times for Herostock. We really hope that this becomes a household name, and for, all our brothers and sisters to have an urge and want to get out there. I do know at some point in time, every day is a Saturday. We do hope that we can maybe start getting some donations and stuff like that. And what I would love to do is set up a scholarship or something to get a veteran or a first responder, get their travel paid for, and get them out to the event. That's something I would really like to do in the future. So, that way we can get more and more brothers and sisters out there. That's how much it means to me, that I would love to host, or, have the ability to get someone out there that maybe wouldn't be able to go any other time. But, all right, man, if there's nothing else, we'll go ahead and get on. Thank you so much once again, brother, for coming on, and
thank you.
We'll see you back there. Go ahead and enjoy the crayons.
Yeah. That's my favorite.
Yeah, buddy. All right, friends and family. Well, that goes ahead and knocked out another great interview. You guys already know I am a huge fan of Herostock, and I really, really hope we're going to do everything in our possibility to try to get out there. And once again, like I said, we're going to work really hard in trying to see if we can maybe sponsor a veteran or someone to get them out there as well. And all of you guys, this episode is dropping on Memorial Day, and that day historically is a really rough day for a lot of our veterans, especially the month of May could be quite a hard one for our brothers and sisters out there. So, hey, make sure you guys are out there reaching out to our brothers and sisters. Check in on them. Hey, don't even just drop them a text. Give them a phone call. Make sure you hear the voice, see how they're doing. Make sure everybody's on the right, everybody's on the right mindset. We're not losing anymore to their demons. If you need help out there, remember, guys, there's a crisis lifeline. All you got to do is dial 988. For you veterans out there, press 1, and hopefully put you in touch with someone who can get you in the right direction. Other than that, guys, you know how we do out here. Don't let the day kick your ass. Make sure you're out there kicking it. Until next time, we'll see you guys.
Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe.